Hi, my name is Ken.
And my name is Jason.
And today we're looking at
Infinite City.
So, Infinite City was actually published by AEG in 2009 and was designed by Brent Keith.
And this is kind of a tile placement / area control type game.
Each player is actually taking the role of a corporation who is trying to expand out in this very abundant, ever-expanding city.
And at the end, the person with the most victory points wins.
So first we're going to give you a rundown of the components in Infinite City. This is not going to take very long at all. These are the player tokens. They come in 6 different colors. And these are the city tiles. You'll see them upside and backside.
I'm going to go over the setup for Infinite City. So first of all, each player chooses a color. So here's yours, Ken.
Thank you.
And I think I'll play red. Next, you place the city tiles in a large stack. Next, you deal a hand of 5 tiles face down to each player. Then take the 5 top tiles of the tile deck and arrange them in a plus sign. Randomly select a starting player. And now you are ready to play.
So the turn phases in Infinite City are very, very simple. On your turn, take 1 tile from your hand, place it on the board, and claim it. When you're placing tiles, they must be orthogonally adjacent. This means that they must be touching base to base. So this is not acceptable. This is an acceptable placement, and so is the one I placed originally. After you've claimed the tile, follow any rules and text on the tile. In example, housing says, place one of your tokens on an empty tile. Like such. I'm not going to go into the rules of claiming an empty tile just yet, though. After you've followed any text on the placed tile, draw tiles from the tile stack until you're back up to 5. There is no hand limit, though, so if you have tiles in excess of 5, you just keep them. However, you don't draw any further tiles. Next, I'm going to go over the parts of a tile. So obviously at the top of the tile is the tile's name. Further down the tile, all tiles have text. You must resolve this text when you reveal it. Some tiles, not all, have a number printed in the top corner over here. This is worth bonus points at the end of the game if you successfully have claimed this by the end. Now normally the tiles all have a gold kind of rim around them. Some tiles though have a silver rim, and they actually also have these little silver rings at the bottom here. These are special tiles, and you will also get bonus points for having the most of these at the end of the game. As a note, there are generally several copies of each kind of tile. So there's going to be versions of the plaza that are blank, like this construction site, have various printed numbers, like this particular plaza, and some may have these silver borders, like on this bank. Next, we're going to go over general building the city and how to claim tiles. If you play a tile, such as the construction site, that has text that reads, play another tile, that means that you go through your hand and you choose yet another tile to claim. I could then say choose housing. Claim that. And then it says, place one of your tokens on an empty tile. Since with housing I may place a token on an empty tile, I could choose any of the face-down tiles or this other housing over here. If I were to choose housing, I would not actually resolve its text. The text is resolved once it's revealed, and then no longer is relevant again. Unless it has an ongoing effect, such as the power plant, and I will go into that later. If I claim a face-down tile, I reveal the tile and fulfill its text. The factory says, after filling your hand this turn, draw and keep 5 more tiles. That would mean that I would have a total of 10 tiles in my hand. If I already had more tiles in my hand than 5, I would then just instead draw another 5. So because I've ended my turn by claiming a tile that does not get me to draw further tiles to the board, I then fill up my hand as normal. So to reiterate, the only way to claim a face-down tile is when you claim a tile that allows you to place a token on another tile, be that specifically a face-down one or an empty tile. For all intents and purposes, face-down tiles will always be empty tiles because as soon as someone has claimed it, it is revealed. And at any point in time, multiple players can have tokens on the same tile. For all intents and purposes, they are all considered to have claimed that tile. However, only the first player to have placed their token on that tile is the one that actually resolves the text. Alright, now we're going to talk about ending the game. The game immediately ends if all 5 power stations are in play. There are 5 power stations in this deck, and if all 5 of them are on the board, the game is over as soon as the last one is placed. You would then go into scoring as normal. Alternatively, if any player ran out of tokens, as in they were all placed on the board, that player resolves any text on a tile played that does not result in another tile being played, because they cannot further claim tiles, being as they have no more tokens. All other players take their turn as normal, and then when it returns to the player that no longer has any tokens remaining, the game is then over, and you now score. First off, you score points based on the number of chain sections you control. A chain must consist of 3 continuous tiles that you have claimed. So in this case, I have 3. As long as you have at least 3 in your chain, you score points equal to the number of tiles in your chain. If you somehow happen to have multiple tokens on the same tile, you still only score 1 point for that tile. Thus, there is no way you can double dip into a chain. In the case of this chain, I would have 6 points because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 continuous tiles. However, in this orientation here, I would only score 3 points. I have a chain over here of 3, but then I have a chain of 2 over here and 1 over here. Remember, these are not considered to be adjacent. You also score points for any printed values on any locations you control. So this hotel here happens to have a value of 2. So in addition to my chains, I would score 2 additional points. If Jason also had a token here, he would score 2 points as well. We both control this location. And finally, you score points based on the number of silver tiles you have claimed. The player that has the most silver tiles scores 1 bonus point for every single silver tile in play, whether they have claimed it or not. So in this case, I only have 1 silver tile in this example. So I would score 1 additional point. If Jason has also claimed this 1 tile, and the grand total of silver tiles was 1, we would both share these bonus points, just as with the printed value. Then simply the player with the highest number of points wins the game. In the case of a tie, the tie goes to the person who has the longest chain. So now we're going to go over some example turns for Infinite City. The turns go by fairly quickly in this, so we actually will probably include a couple.
Alright, so it's my turn first. So first of all, I'm going to play an embassy. So I'm placing it here. I put my token on it. And the text reads, place one of your tokens on an adjacent tile, returning all previous tokens to their owners. So that means I get to choose one of these 2 tiles. I'm going to go with this one. So I flip that over. Place my token on it. And its text reads, place one of your tokens on an empty tile. So the streak continues. I'm going to choose this tile, so I flip it over. Place my token on there. This is a transit station. Swap the positions of 2 tiles and all tokens on them. I guess it doesn't really matter a whole lot, but I guess I'll swap these 2 tiles.
That seems about right.
Alright, so next I draw up, so I'm only missing 1 tile, so I draw 1 tile from the deck, and now it is Ken's turn.
Alright, I'm going to start by playing the construction site, and its text reads, place another tile. I'm going to place place housing, and with that I'm going to place a token on an empty tile, which is going to be this one. I reveal the mausoleum. Place an adjacent tile into my hand, And that removes all tokens
No!
and gives me a tile. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have placed a token on housing. Remember, you must claim a tile when you play it. So that would end my turn. I draw my hand back up to 5, and it's now back up to Jason. Alright, so as you can see, we're a few turns in. Currently, I seem to have a pretty decent chain going on. Jason does as well, but I've managed to lock up a few of his points over here, or his tokens rather, with the stadium. So I'm going to take my turn. Transit station. I may immediately swap the position of 2 tiles. I'm going to swap the embassy and the stadium. You're up, Jason? Oh, sorry, actually, first I draw back up. So I actually had less tiles in my hand because Jason actually used a shopping complex earlier, and because of that, I received 4 tiles to my hand. And it was not my turn, so I did not draw it up. Jason, on the other hand, managed to make away with a pretty sweet 9-tile hand, so take it away, Jason.
Alright, I'm going to play a port right here. So it allows me to place the top tile of the deck face down adjacent to any tile. So I'm not going to be drawing up because I still have a lot of cards, tiles in my hand. So, Ken. Alright, so we're quite a few more turns in. We're actually almost to the end of the game. It's currently my turn. So I am going to play a construction site, which allows me to immediately play another tile. Then I'm going to play a bank, which allows me to swap this token with the token on any other tile that I do not control. So I'm going to do this. Now that actually means that I'm out of tokens. So Ken will essentially get 1 turn, and then when it comes back to my turn, we will score. First I have to draw back up technically. Thank you.
Alright, I'm going to place the mausoleum, and I'm going to take an adjacent tile into my hand. And I would technically draw back up, but we are now actually at the end of the game. Alright, so actually I guess we can do some scoring for this. So first we count up our chains. I have a 9-tile chain.
Alright, I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tile chain, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tile chain.
Alright, so that's going to give you a total of
13 points.
Alright, so that's my 9 to your 13. Next we're going to count up floating bonus points. So this is all of the tiles that we control that actually have a printed bonus point value. 1, 2, 3, 4. I get 4 out of that, so that's going to bring me up to 13 points. Jason?
Alright, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I actually have 9 bonus points, which is going to bring me up to 22.
Jason is trouncing me in this game. Last we go to silver bordered tokens, or silver bordered cards rather. So I currently control 1, 2... Yes, I seem to only have 2. Jason?
I also have 2.
That means, and there is a total of 4 on the board, that means that we both share a point total of 4. So that means we both get 4 additional points. That would put me to 17, but Jason, that'll put you to?
26.
Alright, so Jason wins the game pretty much hands down. And yeah, that's pretty much Infinite City in a nutshell. So before we go into our final remarks for Infinite City, we actually first want to give a shout out actually to AEG, Alderac Entertainment Group. The copy of Infinite City we have was actually donated to us from them in the summer of 2011. It was actually during one of our Boardgasm events that we do through the Nova Scotia Board Gaming Society.
Yeah, and they actually gave us this and a number of other games just to use as demos and things. So we do really appreciate that. It's nice to have a bit of a library of games that we can always bring to these things.
Absolutely, and it's nice to actually have a dedicated library for the actual society itself. As a note, though, for this particular game, which, again, we were fairly interested in at the time, For this particular game, though, they actually gave us a few copies of, I guess it would be an expansion or perhaps
kind of a mini expansion thing.
Yeah, and there wasn't too many people in the area that actually had a copy of Infinite City at the time, though many people were rather intrigued. We gave away a few copies, but we actually still have a bunch more left. So we're actually thinking about doing an Infinite City contest sometime in the future to give away the rest of those expansions. So we'll give you more information on that as time comes up.
So again, what do you think about Infinite City?
Well, I really enjoy it. I remember actually checking it out on the AEG website a while back. I'd never seen it actually in town before. And I was like, wow, this seems really neat. It's like a tile placement thing, because at that point in time, our group was actually really into Carcassonne, because that was the big tile placement game that we were all playing. And when we actually got a copy of this, we tried it out, and I have to say, this is awesome. It's actually probably one of my favorite games. It really jumped up there for me. And it's strange because it seems to have I know it doesn't have like a bad rating on Board Game Geek, but it's between like a 6 and a 7, and I really feel it deserves more. I really feel that it deserves a higher rank on Board Game Geek than what it has. But I mean, that's personal opinion of how much it is.
I mean, it is a really solid game, and I enjoy it. I think the thing I like the most about it is I don't know, I usually get into the really complicated games. And it's really hard for me to find a short game that I actually like, and this is one. It plays really quickly. I think the example game that we played took about 15 minutes, which is impressive. I mean, it might take a little bit longer if you don't really, if you're not really into games and you don't really understand a lot of the mechanics. But
it also takes longer with more players too.
I would imagine.
The time doesn't really scale for the number of players. It does take more time for the number of players.
Yeah.
It's still very short though, even at that point.
Well, yeah, and it's pretty simple. Like the rules are like a page folded over. So
the rules literally are a page of paper folded in half, and most of that is like picture and color and stuff.
Yeah, and I think about half of the back page is credits. So it's a very simple game, and I appreciate that.
And those are really hard to come by nowadays. I mean, anybody who has watched our show in the past, you probably see that a lot of the games we pull out on here are very, very complex, rules-heavy games and such, and this was actually a really nice departure from that for us. But Infinite City, if you haven't checked this out before, and it seems like this has dropped under a lot of people's radars, I feel. If you haven't seen this game before, you should definitely pick it up. Alright, Infinite City. Jason, how would you rate it?
I think I'm going to have to go with a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
It's a solid game. I really enjoy it. It's not, probably not in my favorite games, but it's definitely one that I enjoy playing.
All right, I'm gonna have to say 4 out of 5 as well. I really love this game. It reminds me a lot of Carcassonne, which is a game that our entire group was infatuated with for the longest time, it kind of also reminds me of Dominion in a way, though, too. It's a little bit more complicated than Carcassonne, but just complicated enough that it's not unapproachable to new players and stuff. This is actually a really good game. Like if you break out Carcassonne or other similar type games to break new players into the hobby, Infinite City is a really, really good one to do this with. Because again, it's short, simple, to the point. So that's going to give us a grand total of 8 meeples, which is fairly solid.
Yep. So that's all for today. Join us next time for Innovation.
See you next time, and have good games.